Hello, I'm Justin, and I want to help you develop your creativity. We've been working on playing in the key of G and shape 7. We've studied in the previous posts playing in seconds, playing in thirds. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of a different device. So we're not going to talk about intervals. We're going to use the seconds and the thirds, but what we're going to talk about are sequences. So there are two types of sequences. And a sequence is just an order in which we do things. Let's say the sequence of putting something together that you just purchased that comes in a box, and it's just a box of parts and bolts and nuts and everything else. You have to put it together. We have to put things together in order, otherwise it may not turn out the way you want. So that's one type of sequence. So with musical sequences we have two common types, and they are rhythmic sequences and melodic sequences. So the first one we're going to talk about is a rhythmic sequence. Now, the easiest way to understand a rhythmic sequence is to think about a strumming pattern. So your strumming pattern would be your rhythmic sequence. Okay? So I'm using the same rhythmic sequence there. Da, 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 da. So listen to it as I play. So I can take the same approach to creating my melody lines. So if I want, let's say we're going to play in D chord, okay? So I'm going to use that same rhythm that I had before. Okay? Now that might not be your favorite rhythmic sequence, but it is a rhythmic sequence, and that's the point, to pick a rhythm that you can use and then repeat that with different notes, not really paying too much attention to whether you're going up the scale or down the scale. You could even play one note if you have trouble doing it, such as taking the rhythmic sequence and applying it to a series of notes. You could just play it to one note just to get used to it. So since we're playing over a D chord, I'll just use a D note. So you see how that works. So that's a rhythmic sequence. Now the other type of sequence that I want to talk about is called a melodic sequence. Now a melodic sequence is just not really the notes that you choose, but the way that they're put together. So this would use intervals as part of its solution. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to play in the key of G with shape 7 again, and I'm going to play, let's say I'm going to play 4 notes in a series. So I'm going to play this note, this note, this note, and that. Okay? So we have A, G, F sharp, E. Okay? Now I'm going to keep a really simple rhythm so that we don't get distracted by what rhythm I'm using, so we can pay attention to the notes. So I'm just going to play. Okay? And my rhythm or my melodic sequence is that I'm starting with a note and I'm moving down a second, down a second, and down a second again. Okay? So from A to G is down a second, from G to F sharp, down a second, and from F sharp to E, down a second. So if I play any other lines, that's my sequence, down and in seconds and 4 notes. Okay? All right. So we're going to listen to this over, well, let's just use G again. That'll be fun. So I leaned on that note, the F sharp there, mostly because it sounds terrible. But the reason I did that is so I could pinpoint what I'm talking about next, which is sometimes your line, when you play a sequence, lands on a note that doesn't agree with your chord, or maybe you don't like it. And so some of them do. So let's say, for instance, if we're playing over G, and I play my line, I'm landing on an E note. Okay? So that note will sound a certain way against G, and then when I play the next section of it, I land on a D note, so that's going to sound different against the G chord. So listen to it that way. So we're hearing that resolution of the D note on the G chord. Okay? So that seems to sound a little more comfortable than an E note does. Okay? And so we notice that we really didn't like that F sharp. So I'll play the G chord. Okay? So then when I go to the G note after that, then it sounds nice. It sounds resolved, sounds comfortable again. So give those a try. The sequences for the rhythm or a melodic sequence. And when you work on them, when you're working on a melodic sequence, just concern yourself with keeping the same structure. And you can do the same thing with the seconds, like I have shown here, and you can do the same thing with thirds. So explore that. And with the rhythmic sequences, don't worry about what the notes are. Stay true to what the rhythm is so that you get used to that concept as well. Have fun developing your creativity.